Welcome, everybody, to the Brian Fultis Behavioral Finance Podcast. My name is Dr. Brian Fultis, and I'm an Associate Professor of Finance at Butler University in Indianapolis, Indiana. And my goal is to teach you about behavioral finance and how it can improve your financial decision-making so you save more money, make better decisions. My main area of interest is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. This is a continuing conversation on prospect theory, and we're going to build on what we've talked about already in our previous couple of podcasts and round out our conversation around prospect theory with a little bit of framing and mental accounting. And then we're going to talk about betting. Using prospect theory out in the betting markets. So anyway, I'm happy to be here and definitely I'm feeling summery. It's finally getting nice outside and warm. In Indianapolis, it takes a while to get there, but we're finally getting there. And I've got my online summer class going. Got that more or less in cruise control, doing that online, and then it's me, home officing. Here I am. So let's get started today. So we're going to talk about framing. Framing. We've talked about this in an introduction. So positive framing, negative framing, how it actually affects our decision making. So if we talk about, I've got some cheese or meat and it says 100 or whatever, 10%, 90% fat free, 90% fat free. Or sometimes I always get tempted with that meat, where it says, you have the 95% lean meat, and it goes down to 90. You got the 80, 73%, and you're just looking at it going, okay, wait a minute. This is going to be $9 or $10 for the high one, and then it's going to be, but I can get the 73, and it's still 73% fat-free for $4 or $5. So I could buy double of it, and then you go and cook it. And you get that, it's all of the grease is popping in your face, and you dump it all out into a little coffee can, and it smells, the new smell of grease smells, and then you have the old smell, it pops you in the face, and then you eat the meat and you feel like shit afterwards, and you're just like, what did I do? And then, anyway, that's me. I'm always trying to save that money, but sometimes I have to. I'm working on myself too. I'm not just learning. I come up with my own research ideas based on my own ridiculous behaviors. So, and then I have this opposite where I cook that good stuff. I pay extra, and you cook it, and there's very little grease that comes off. You just slice it up, you eat it. You don't feel like shit afterwards. Worth paying the extra. But I just wonder, though, if I would be less tempted if it said 5% fat on that 95% or 4. I think the good stuff is 96. Or if it says 27% fat, maybe that would be my trigger to remember, all right, 27% fat. And then maybe that sensation of 25% or 27% fat, that sensation of getting popped into the face with the hot grease and the smell will come back and drive my decision before that. Anyway, we've got framing issues, right? With prospect theory, positive, negative framing. So there's some fun ways to use this. The not so fun way that we talk about, the epic example is, survival or death, the way you present how much you survive, or how many survivors there would be based on some vaccination compared to percentage of people that will die from this, and trying to influence people with their health decisions. But what I like to do is I I guess I'm no relationship expert, certainly not. But if I'm ever talking with my fiance and kind of have a little argument or want to make a bet, I always make the joke that, hey, if you win this particular bet, you get to make out with me, or we can go upstairs and you get to make out with me, make out with me. So that's your reward for winning. It's a good reward for me. If you lose that bet, then you have to make out with me. You have to go upstairs and make out with me. That's your punishment. So it's funny, and I kind of think of the old Seinfeld episode as well. Who is that? Here's your trivia. I think it's Todd Gack is his name on the show, but he would try to get a date with Elaine and make up a ridiculous, so-and-so was on, Kevin Costner was in Star Wars, and if he lost, then he would have to take her out to dinner. But if he won, that she would have to buy dinner. So either way, he's going to get a date. And so he's just using this loophole to get a date. That's how I use the loophole to make out with my fiance. So anyway, you can have fun with it. Just think though about how framing can be used in different ways to influence decisions, both in positive or to dissuade somebody in a negative way. So we've got some different ways we can frame things, and just all to plant the seeds to just notice around you. What are they trying to get you to do? Are they trying to push you into something that may not be optimal for you? 73% fat-free meat. Or are they trying to dissuade you from something and make your own interpretation on what you want to do? But anyway, you could do, there's auditory framing. So we talked about the positive negative framing. That's the first one. Second one is this auditory framing, how you can feel positive, negative. And this is something that you can always do in class, where I ask somebody in the front, I say, hey, can you please get the door and, or please prop the door open or shut the door? Can you please do that? Thanks. And then I always find I like to pick on somebody that gets startled or really, it's like, get the door! Please, get the door! Thanks! Hopefully I didn't hit anybody's eardrums. You're just trying to walk the dog. I want to learn something about behavioral finance. Things were going so well and I blew my eardrum. Sorry. Auditory framing. I won't do that again. Hi, you could say that in a really positive way. You could say it in a negative way. Loud or soft. And there's framing that you can manipulate or use based on tone and volume level. I'll move on. Number 3 is visual framing. So, these other two kind of go hand in hand. So I've got visual, number 3, and font framing, number 4. So I usually use this example in conjunction with each other. In my class, I can usually come up with a pretty good baby shower. And you'll see, let's see here. I'm just going to scrub one out. Boom. So I've got baby, and I was really going, and I've got that's so shitty. Usually I'm trying to do lightning bolts. I'm just going to stick with finance, guys, okay? Got a baby shower. Then I usually get somebody, say, can you write the girliest of girly? Think bows and princesses and swirls, add a heart, get some of the stereotypical things. And then we say, okay, well, which one do you think is designated for, like this rock star boy, or the other ones are girls? You get the point, right? Fonts, visuals, these kind of can push you into different directions about what it's about, what the theme is. I tried to go with my, just got off to a bad start. I was trying to go for like the Def Leppard, I'm influenced by the 80s. I was trying to go for the Def Leppard font, and then with some lightning bolts, maybe throw in like a real like triangular guitar. See, make the point. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. And if I haven't scared you away from that bad example, you can hit the subscribe button. It only gets better from here. So thanks for watching today and learning a little bit about behavioral finance with me. Now this one that is a little bit more interesting, in my opinion, value framing. So notice, and this is kind of old marketing 101 here. So think about this. There's a rule of 100. There's a rule of 100 that says any product over $100, switch, when you're talking about like a sale or a promotion, anything over $100, switch the framing to dollars off instead of percentage off. And the reason behind that is because that number, once it's above 100, is actually going to get larger. So if we have 25 or 20% off, then you can say 20% off up to 100, and that's actually how many dollars would be off. Or in fact, up to 100, the percentage will be a higher number than the actual number of dollars that would be taken off. So if you're a marketer, you're going, okay, well, I want to use percentages up to 100. If you're a consumer, you want to be careful that how many people, how do you get 10 credit cards? This is one of the catches. Hey, you want to save 10 or 20% on your purchase today? Yeah, sure. Okay, well, you save $4 today on your purchase, but now you've got this credit card. Now you've extended yourself on this. So anyway, it works both ways. You got to know what side you're on. Conversely, though, if you're selling something more than $100, and then you want to do number off, because if you have a $200 product, instead of saying $20 off, you get $40 off. Higher number, go, oh, I'm going to save $40, and you get pushed into this behavior. So people love, when it comes to savings, they want to see the higher number. They're going to be more apt to buy the product when they see the higher number. So hopefully everyone's following this on this one side. So you have value framing from a consumer standpoint. Higher numbers, more likely to spend. On a savings perspective, we've been working on this from a retirement contribution standpoint. And we say you are contributing, let's say you're making $50,000 a year, and you're at 10%. Okay, so you're $5,000 a year, but we want to get you to 12%. So instead of saying, hey, why don't you increase your contributions by $1,000 a year, using the higher number, right? $1,000 a year, we should say, hey, what if you just move up by 2%? 2% versus 1,000. You're giving up the exact same amount. So we can see the outcome is the same, but 2% sounds, oh, I could give that up. That doesn't sound like as much of a sacrifice as giving up an extra $1,000 a year. And so we think about how this framing works from a retirement standpoint. And I did an experiment on this showing, hey, if I show a 22-year-old just an extra 1% per year, what that would actually do to their final number when they're 60 years old. So I think, even if we talk about this individual, this hypothetical $50,000 per year person, 1% over 40 years is something around, it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's what I remember. It's an astronomical number. So anytime you move up 1%, your future value of your portfolio moves up hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we noticed that people were actually increasing their contributions way higher than if we showed them the larger numbers and showed them that same final outcome. So anyway, framing has a lot to do with this, and now we're seeing all the different sides. That's what we were trying to show. Some examples were better than others. Next topic we're going to talk about along the lines of prospect theory is called mental accounting. So with framing, if we formalize this, people have different perspectives and come up with different decisions depending on how a problem is framed. With mental accounting is a process of categorizing money, spending, and financial events. Mental accounting is a process of categorizing money, spending, and financial events, often leading to suboptimal decisions. Suboptimal decisions, that's a nice way of saying bad decisions. So the classic example of this mental accounting is, well, there's a number of them here, but if you have a savings account and an emergency fund, many people like to have an emergency fund, but then they also run credit card debts, and they have these two at the same time. So even, let's say we move our money, like I try to encourage you to do, move your money to a money market account. So we're getting 4.5%. And imagine you have $20,000 in that account, and then you have $20,000 in credit card debt. But you're also paying 25% on that credit card. So the question that I ask is, why is this suboptimal? So there's some emotion involved. A lot of people have saved really hard. They're going to have a hard time giving that up, that $20,000 up. But at the same time, we're categorizing this. That money is for emergency. That's saved. This is my spending. I went overboard. I have to pay this off in a different way. But let's take a step back and go, wait a minute. What we should be thinking about here is every dollar, a dollar is a dollar, is a dollar, is a dollar. And there shouldn't be categories. So our mental accounting is how we categorize it, when in reality, we really should not be categorizing each dollar. It all is kind of this nameless thing. And so, of course, if in my example, if you had that money, you're essentially willingly losing 20% per year on the money that you have by staying in these categories, instead of moving that money and taking that 20% and building up your emergency fund. People categorize, and of course this leads to this suboptimal decisions. Now, there's also ways we can use mental accounting to either our benefit or to our detriment. So I always liked it when I was living in Germany. You can go to Munich and you have your mass. That's a 1 liter glass. That's what you think about the Oktoberfest, and you've got the masses. One liter, which is about three cans or 3 bottles of beer here in the U.S. And so what you could say is, when you come back from lunch, and if your partner or spouse is giving you a hard time, it's like, look, I had 2 beers for lunch and I'm good. Well, you could say that's much better than saying I had 6 beers for lunch and I'm good. You can have 2. Good. Anyway, we did Oktoberfest when I was there, and we were there on a Sunday late morning. through the afternoon, and I swear I only had 3 beers. I only had 3. And then we took the Ferris wheel. That was a good decision after that. Or not the Ferris wheel, the tilt-a-whirl, the fun one. And I just remember closing my eyes because it was all really blurry. And closed my eyes and I picked up my phone and it was just snapping pictures. And I was just like, maybe I'll see. The pictures were amazing. Somehow were amazing. So I actually got to take in the view, even if it was after the fact. But anyway, mental accounting, how we categorize it. Sometimes even with drinks, I tried this before. I said, I'm only going to have a set amount of drinks per week. And then I even had like a little ping pong ball system that I would put it in. And if I ran out of ping pong balls for the week, then I'm done drinking for the week. Well, what ended up happening is if I'm going to play this game, then every drink I had was just going to be a loaded Long Island iced tea filled to the brim, a little bit of ice. So I really wasn't cutting down on alcohol. I was just being a doof. And what I ended up realizing is you need to do other things with your life and not things take care of themselves. So for me, waking up at 5:30 in the morning, I've got stuff to do now. I've got kids. I've got a card business on eBay. I'm doing podcasts. I've got stuff to teach. I've got research to do, all these different things. And I started going, work out, all these things. And waking up early and getting stuff done. Not only are you productive, but at night, there's no way I'm going to have any more than one drink because I know how I'm going to feel the next day. And I just don't want to do it. So anyway, there's my little life hack, how I cut down on drinking on a day-to-day. And now what I'm working on is weekends. So sometimes it bulges up to the weekends and I'll feel like garbage the next if I have too much. And so what I'm trying to do is I try to set a lot of cardio. So I do a long run on the weekends, and the other day I'll do a long bike ride or sometimes combine the two and do a little mini duathlon. And tell you what, if you drink too much, you're either not going to do it and feel like shit, or you're going to feel like you're going to die when you're doing this. And I'd just rather not do it. And so I cut down so I can wake up in the morning, do that, have my life together, get my act together by noon, and then enjoy the weekend. So anyway, mental accounting. A couple more examples of mental accounting. Tax refunds. How many of us, when we get our tax refunds, we think of this as play money or house money, even though we should have a strategy on where any extra money should go, whether it be into our savings, long-term, short-term, or have a strategic plan on things that we've wanted to buy for a while and now can with the extra money. But instead, we just think about this as a gift and we categorize it mentally. And so therefore we get our big screen TV, or I even noticed used cars go up quite a bit or they have a little spike around March when everyone's getting their tax refunds. Even in my trading card business, that you get a spike of people buying big orders when they're getting their tax refunds. So, and it's all just because this categorization of this new money coming in, and they treat it in a different way than they would of their paycheck. So that's a classic one. And then finally, we've got this endowment effect. So house money effect, essentially, is what this is. If you're walking into a casino and somebody gives you $100, say, hey, just go gamble on this, have a good time. You're actually going to treat that $100 completely differently and more risky than you would if you actually had to reach in, grab out your own $100 and then gamble on that money. So that's this house money effect. Somebody gives you money, even though you could say, well, I could actually, pay for groceries this year with that $100. That's the reality of it. Someone gives you $100, you don't have to categorize it, but that's what we tend to do. Um, what else? I think that's mental accounting. We beat that one to we beat that one up pretty good, I think. Finally, we now have reference point dependence. So prospect theory, everything we've been talking about here has to do with this reference point. So everything that we base our gains and losses off of comes from a reference point. So I already mentioned this when I was working at Fidelity Investments. Was working in training, trying to get new hires to get their Series 7 and to train them up to trade mutual funds, stocks, and options, and to look at people's portfolios, help them out. But then during the financial crisis, everyone was calling, so we all got thrown onto the phones, and so that was kind of my breaking point when day after day I would just get yelled at by customers, yelling at me because I mean, it's a big company. It's an inbound call center. So we're just taking calls from customers I've never talked to before. But they're saying I lost them 50%, freaking out. Again, just anger, so much madness. And it's kind of worn you down. But I would always go back and look at how people's money has grown over time and realize that their reference point continues to change. And so they're yelling at me for losing 50%, even though they started with 10,000, it grew through the 80s and 90s all the way to 500,000. And now they're yelling at me for losing it because now they have 250,000. And I always thought to myself, why aren't they calling to thank me? Because I guess I'm the one responsible for growing their money from 10,000 to 250,000. But then I realized after the fact, when I started learning about behavioral finance, that it's all about reference point dependence. So the way I like to think about this in my own life is I always like to keep expectations low. So if I know that expectations are low, then I can actually outperform, or people would perceive me as a gain. So, if I'm teaching a class, I want you guys to keep your expectations low. And if I happen to somehow teach you something, well, you should really be surprised and thankful for this and grateful, rather than, all right, guys, I've got the best. You'll learn so much. And if you don't, then consider it a loss and you should be unhappy. You should blame me. Really, I want these high expectations. And same thing in my relationships. Like, all right, come on, don't expect much. But then when I go clean something or I have my act together, I tend to do that. Then you're going to be pleasantly surprised. And if I just don't expect it, don't change your reference point too high, because then I'm only going to be able to disappoint you. So keep it nice and low. Let me outperform, and we can live in that world. And anyway, that's how I like to use reference point dependence to my benefit. So people in my world are generally pleased with me instead of constantly disappointed, taking losses all the time. So we talked about reference point dependence, changing our retirement account balances and how that fluctuates with the markets. But let me ask you a question here. Scenario, you take $10, you're in, I don't know, Las Vegas, Atlantic City, and you sneak downstairs at the casino. Your spouse, your partner, friend are upstairs in the hotel room taking a nap. You take that $10 and you just take a crazy gamble, and it pays off, and you win. You have $50,000 now. So you now have $50,000, and you're just feeling like, I can't lose. Take that $50,000, you gamble it all. Well, you lost. You cry a little bit. That's what I would do. Cry. Have a good cry. And then you go back upstairs. What do you tell your spouse or your partner or your friend? I'm going to say, let me start you. I lost blank dollars. What do you tell them? So I'd have to wait for the tears to be wiped with my puffy face. And I would go up and say, I wouldn't be able to say I lost $50,000. I would say I lost $10. So again, reference point dependence on how we change our perspective. But yeah, I lost $10. Sorry. Betting behavior. We're going to go a little bit long today because this is, I don't know, I'm having fun. Hopefully you are too. Betting behavior. So I went with my fiance to the Kentucky Derby last year. So this is 2022. We all got dressed up. I will go to Instagram. I'll post our Kentucky Derby get up. I even had a glorious beard at the time. And we all got dressed up. Got tickets for the infield because in Indianapolis, that's literally, 2 hours, 2 and some change away from where we live. So we felt like we got to at least try this once. Let's go to the infield, try the Kentucky Derby. And we did horse betting. And what is it? Antoine Merriweather and Blaine Edwards from the Old and Living Color show. Hated it. Yeah, I'm 42 years old. Those are the references you're going to get. I don't even care. I'll get crickets. I'll take crickets when I make those references in my classes and I'm 20 some years old, older than everybody else in the room. But that's my in living color. That was my experience. Hated it. So many people crammed on this infield. Makes me a little angry when I have to wait too long to get a drink. Makes me way angrier when I have to stand in a line to just pee. And then even angrier when I have to stand in a bunch of shit and pee after I've waited in line. So we didn't stay there for very long. But we did watch a few of the preliminary races. And we got to see it on the big screen and then watch them in our little glimpse as we're in the infield. So we got the experience, albeit for a little while. But then on the big screen in between the races, they interviewed Joey Fatone. And so Joey Fatone, somebody, I think I just heard I don't think that's his nat. They just said he's the fat one. So fat one. I wish him the best. That's just what I heard his name was. He was up there and they were interviewing him and he's 3 sheets. Like it's 3 in the afternoon. And so he's like, well, we're having a good time and blah, and I said, well, Joey, who do you think is going to win? He's like, I don't know. Number 2. Well, this is our 21st Derby in a row. So whatever 21 is. And they were like, Joey, I don't think there's a lane 21. I think they got scratched from the race. He's like, rah, oh yeah, I don't know. And we looked it up. And we're like, if there is somebody in lane 21, we should bet on it. Just put $5 or $10 on it. $10. And we go, nah, that's so stupid. I'm miserable. Let's go home. Or so we went back and we watched it at the bar at the hotel. Well, last year, an underdog reserve came in at the last minute and raced and won with 70-1 odds out of lane 21. So we're watching this at the bar and we're like, no, we should have followed through on our stupid idea because that $10 would have became $710 after the win. But anyway, that's as close as we came to any winning or any betting of any significant money. I'm telling this story because we talk about prospect theory, and there are different betting behaviors that many people display, both when we're talking about horse racing or just now sports betting in general, that we see. And you can do your own interpretation or make your own decisions, but we're just going to show you what ends up happening and some of the psychology behind it as to why. So the first one is called the favorite long shot bias. So what we found is in these betting markets, the long shot is always overpriced based on its base rate probability to actually win a race or win a match or a game. It's always overpriced. The favorite is always always underpriced. The favorite is always underpriced. So the long shot is overpriced, overbet. The favorite is underbet. So why is that? Well, let's dig into our psychology now. So with the long shot, who likes to bet on the long shot? And then you say, why? Why do I bet on long shots? If we were honest with ourselves, we would probably say, well, if they win, I would feel really good about myself. I'll feel very smart. Not only that, I feel really good about myself. I'll make a big amount of money with just a small investment. So I get all these hits and I don't care what I have to pay because I realize if I lose, it's just a small amount of money and it was supposed to happen anyway. And so you get a big crowd on this side and they'll bump up those odds to a point where it's always overpriced. Now, if you think about it from the other's perspective, somebody's supposed to win. And so you need to put up a lot of money just for a little bit of a win. And so if this actually happens, you're just like, well, that wasn't very exciting. I don't feel very smart because they were supposed to win. And now I have this risk of actually losing a large amount of money if it doesn't go my way. So you can see all these factors go, no, I don't want to do this. And because of the lack of crowding in this area, the odds move down. So if you're actually going to play this with true probabilities, you're actually either going to take the high or take the favorites and just continue to use that over and over again. You'll lose some over time, but knowing that you're going to get the best price, that is your best way to go in the long term. And if you are in European betting markets, not in the US, or at least I don't know of any places in the US where you can actually short the long shot. But I know that in the UK and in Europe, you can actually short. You can take, typically in the US, we're only long. You can actually short the match, horse, player, whatever side. You can actually short that overpricing. Now, be careful. So I have the overpricing. Think about it. When I was doing my doctorate, we have a group of students for working for Professor Longer. And so Professor Longer, when we talk about prospect theory came from Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. And Thomas Longer, he has been in connection with, he calls him Danny, and Tversky and Dick Thaler. He was in a summer group with them many years ago and now continues to stay in contact and has worked with them and works in finance in Germany. And so whenever I would tell him, like, hey, did you read Daniel Kahneman's book about thinking fast and slow? I was real excited about it. And he's like, Brian, Danny's been talking about this for 20 years now and finally wrote a book. And it's like, oh, okay. So anyway, we've got a group of behavioral finance PhD students that work, and most of them, I'm trying to think if anybody's in academia in the U.S. A couple were, but not anymore. Anyway, well, one of my office mates, we already knew about this favorite long shot bias, but now we're actually going to use this. And So my office mate, he would come into the office and every Monday be in a pretty good mood, and he liked golf, and I like watching golf too. But he knew a guy and played golf there, and so he grew up with a guy named Alex Cheka. So Alex Cheka is a prominent PGA golfer from Germany. And if you remember anybody golfers, there's Martin Keimer. He actually won stuff. And Bernard Langer is kind of the greatest. He's on the senior tour now. Anyway, he knew Alex Cheka and kind of knew him as a kind of a hothead. And he's just like, there's no way Cheka is going to win an event. And he knew that his odds were always going to be overpriced. So he would actually short Cheka. He just had about $4,000 just to bet on. But what that would do on a 50-1 odds is that would create income of $80 per week every time Cheka would lose. And so I always joked that was his paycheck because on every week he would get $80, which, that can buy a lot of beer in our office. And I just realized that I had to learn early that when we're doing research and drinking beer, there was a sign that I saw. It says, "Don't drink and drive." And I didn't have a car anyway, so I didn't have to drive, but I knew that I wasn't going to do any significant research after a couple of beers, because I'd look at some of the coding I would do. And after, I was like, what the hell did you have to redo everything? So don't drink and drive is my takeaway message here, especially if you're living in Europe. Anyway, he came in one day and was not the same chipper mood on a Monday morning, and realized that Cheka won for the first time, which meant he lost his $4,000. So favorite long shot bias in general works from a pricing standpoint, but by no means any of these are guarantees. So you have this favorite long shot bias, and then you're going to actually see what we call the end of the day effect. End of the day effect is when the favorite long shot bias increases even more at the end of the day. So if you have a number of horse races, a number of trade, or used to be dog track, horse races, a series of things, the last race, everyone's trying to get their money back. So they might have losses, they're going to try to catch up. So you put all the rest of your money into the long shot. So that amplifies this mispricing even more. Nobody is touching the favorites at the end, and that's going to come down even more as well. So both this long shot effect, favorite long shot effect, is amplified at the end of the day as people are trying to recoup their losses for the day. And then finally, we have what is called the recency effect. So I've noticed this in class. We actually do a horse betting simulator. We used to do money. It used to be fake, or it used to be, I would give everybody $10 and we would do 4 races. And at the end of the 4 races, I would pick one card or one paper out of the stack of 20 or 30 people in my class, and I would actually give them that payout. So I'm trying to really incentivize them. But then I was on a website doing these races, and one year, 2 guys, the long shot won a couple of times. The long shot won, and I had a payout of $600 in the stack and a payout of $400 in the stack. And I was just like, I'm not going to pay out somebody $600. It's like, we have to fill out tax forms. We have to get administration involved. I was like, I'm not tenured yet. And even if I was, this is too much trouble. I don't want to get in any trouble. I'm trying to show you these biases, but now I'm on the hook for $600. Well, so what I ended up doing is I pulled both aside. I said, look, $600. There's 30 people in this class. Your expected value is $20. Would you accept $20? And they said, yeah. I said, good. Same thing for the other one. There's $15. Going to even give you a sweeter deal for $400. So would you take it? Just so I can take this out of the stack? Yes. So anyway, we don't do real money anymore after that. But what I've noticed time and time again in this particular exercise is I give people $10, and we see the end of the day effect. We see the favorite long shot bias. I also noticed that if I have 30 people in the room, that means I give out $300, and I add up the total of everybody's money at the end of the 4 races. And with the exception of that one time, the payouts are, the return is I get anywhere between $100 and $200 back on average. Sometimes it's lower. A couple of times it's been higher, like I've said. And then I realized when I paid out or had those large payouts that I was on a website that was trying to get people to gamble. So their simulations are going to be stacked towards the long shot. So they get people excited to say, hey, look what I can do in the simulation. Let's do it in real life. So I found a more neutral one that I tested a few times that actually is just there for entertainment purposes. That's the one I use with fake money now. Anyway, the recency effect happens. This is the third one. The recency effect, if you see somebody with, or a couple of races where the long shot has won a couple of times in a row, you get stacked with people even more into the next race. So, and if the favorite has won a few times in a row, you will finally start to see more money trickle up to the favorites because people are sick and they've seen the recency of these favorites winning, and they'll move their money because they just want to feel a win. And it's been happening, so they can feel like a continuation of these winnings from either the long shot or the favorite. All right, so we went pretty long today, but that completes our chapter 3. That's chapter 3. It's called Prospect Theory and Framing. Please let me know if you have any questions and or comments. Thanks for sticking with me through this, and hope you're learning something. I really want to just be out there so you can learn all the different aspects. Like I said, anytime I've seen anything, it's just been one little tidbit aspect, and I want to do a comprehensive look at this. And so you can see there's a lot to talk about, trying to put examples in there so it's sticky, so it sticks with you. But yeah, let's keep this conversation rolling. Please make sure you subscribe below, and whatever I can do to assist, you can look at me, follow me on, subscribe here, check me out on Instagram, brianfoltis.com. Let me know how I can serve you. If you've got any sort of seminars you want me to do, or keynote speeches, or workshops, I am your guy. There is a lot to talk about and a lot to discuss, and I want to assist as many people as I can and serve as many people as I can in this area. So thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.